What's up, guys? So we got a chest day today, myself and Terrence, and so just gonna kind of walk you through some of the stuff we normally do. You'll see in the beginning that I'm doing a little bit of kind of like what I call, who the hell knows, made up the name, activations, warm up. Basically the thought process behind that is just move some joints that are involved. So I'll practice moving my shoulder blades, move my GH joint, which is where basically your arm sits in the side of your scapula, do some stuff for elbows, do a couple stuff to just contract and squeeze and kind of work on that mind-muscle connection, for lack of a better word, for pecs. And then we'll kind of go through our movements. Generally, we'll have 2 heavy pressing movements, 1 heavy fly movement, and that's pretty much been the format we've had for like our main meat and potatoes, kind of output movements that we track, that we logbook, we try and progress, and then we'll finish with something stupid just to try and get a nasty pump in a short period of time. So again, the first half of this workout, to keep context, will probably be about 45 minutes to an hour, and the pump work will be maybe like 10 minutes total. And again, we've rotated the movements we've used so many times. Generally, we start with something a little bit more incline. So we're doing an incline converging press first. Then we do something flat, and then we're gonna do something that's a fly variation. But all those movements change from time to time. But whatever we do, we pretty much stick with for months at a time until we feel like we hit a point where we plateau or something. So this is the first movement. Terrence is about 15 weeks out, I think, from the Olympia at this point. And so anybody looking for a massive chest, do these well, do it progressively and consistently for like a decade, and this should work out pretty well for you. So here we go. Go. 1. Damn it. Yep. All right, guys, so a couple of notes here on going to a flat press. So, I'll get a couple questions on, exercise sequence here, exercise selection. And the reality is, I've said just the nature of, it's kind of semantics, but for pressing, for chest stuff, there's a lot of good options, and I don't think there's like ones that are just so much definitively better than others. So if you've even watched my video on my 3 top favorite chest exercises, which we'll see if we can link to right here or one of these sides, if you haven't watched that one, this side, you understand why I say is there really a massive difference from a flat barbell bench press to a flat dumbbell bench press to a flat Smith machine bench press. No, there's not a massive difference. I'd say to some degree, go personal preference. We're doing this in the Smith because it's our second exercise. You can make the argument, your stabilizers are a little bit fatigued, but honestly not a huge deal. So again, if you prefer doing this workout, except with the flat barbell bench press here, have at it. One little consideration, and this is coming from a guy who felt I had to do flat barbell bench press because that's just something that guys have to do. Even though I've never been remotely anything considered a power lifter, never thought about competing in it, I've always considered my approach more bodybuilding, just to look a certain way. I still felt like I had to do it. And I injured this shoulder specifically 3 or 4 different times just from overuse and just this pattern or movement that didn't quite fit me. And I always say, I don't know if people can understand, when you're doing something where gravity is the thing you're using, or a straight up and down bar path, you're in a fixed amount of internal and external rotation at your shoulder. So again, meaning if I'm doing a flat bench press, if I internally rotate it all, you'll basically drop the barbell. Or if I externally rotate, you'll drop the barbell this way. So you have to stay in the same relative level of internal, external rotation. And because it's such a specific amount, because of everyone's shoulder joint, literally the way that your humerus, your upper arm bone, sits in the side of your scapula, that articulation of those joints is slightly different from person to person. So there's a reason that some exact position can feel great for someone, and for someone else it feels like complete crap, because literally the shape of your scapula is different. The shape of your acromion, the thing that kind of goes over the top and the front of your scapula that goes over top of the humerus, is a different shape. And again, you don't have to know all that. Most people just need to know what feels good and doesn't feel good. So for me, if I do an exact flat barbell flat anything with a straight up and down bar path, it wrecks my shoulders. But if I change the incline, decline just the teeniest bit, no pain, and I can do it for a long period of time. So you'll see here, if you can see down the front of the bench, that's my decline hack, which is nothing remotely revolutionary or intelligent. I just have a 10-pound plate under the front of the bench. So now I'm probably at like a 2 or 3 degree decline as opposed to perfectly flat. So one, you can adjust your bench that way. It doesn't have to be this pure decline bench, this very steep thing. Even a couple degrees will make a slight difference. The other thing you can do is you can arch. So again, relative to your pecs, relative to your shoulder joint, basically this is like going from kind of a flat, to a 5-degree decline, to a 10-degree decline, to a 20-degree decline. And again, some people refer to that as cheating in powerlifting, whatever, bodybuilding world, who cares? It's just basically making it more of a decline exercise while you're on a flat bench. So anyway, that's the reason that we're doing this flat. I'm doing with that slight decline right there. Is some people, if you just messed around with that, it could make all the difference in the world. So if you're someone where a flat barbell bench press has never felt great, try messing around with slight degrees of incline, decline. Put a plate under the front if you want a little bit more of a decline. Put plates under the back if you want a teeny bit of incline. And then mess around with arm path as well too. That's something I touched on in the first video. Kind of look at, look where my arm path is, look where Terrence is. Some people have discomfort out here in this high elbow position. Some people it's fine. Everyone else, just realize kind of anywhere in here, as long as your upper arm is moving across your body, you're gonna have a lot of pecs involved. So again, don't feel like you have to be here. Don't feel like you have to be here either, just kind of somewhere in there. And again, the reason I hate to say, because some people like to say high elbow bad. They like to do the videos and put a big red X on it and shit. But again, while that might be true for a lot of people, again, everyone's shoulder joint structure is a little bit different. So a lot of people can press up here and they feel great. But if you're not that person, just try messing around with that stuff just a little bit and see if you can find a spot that feels good. All right, so going through this chest day today, I know some of the questions are going to be, why the exercises, why exercise selection, why are we starting with a machine, probably something along the lines of why no free weights, things like that. And, I've done it in videos before where, I think from a semantic standpoint, there's some places where free weights and barbells are superior. There's some places where I think machines, cables can be superior, and there's some times where I think it's very, very close and really just go by personal preference. And if I look at some of the stuff that we've started with over the past 4 or 5 years, I'd say it's probably spent the most time doing like incline dumbbells, incline barbell. Generally start with something incline. One, from a bodybuilder standpoint, most people could use more kind of upper chest to prioritize it, realizing you can't isolate any part of your chest, but you can absolutely have some parts work more than others. So I think it's a good practice for most people that are, into bodybuilding, into training, to look good, to start with an incline motion just for the benefit of putting on. You can't really have too much upper chest. It's never happened. Never looked at somebody like, oh, he's got too much upper chest. So that's the reason why I've always start with an incline. And then I could honestly go back and forth with, like something like incline dumbbells has an advantage because you can pretty much go whatever width grip. You can move the dumbbells where you want. You can go whatever kind of upper arm path. There's a lot of freedom of motion there. You're not in a fixed plane. But if there's an advantage to the machine that we started with, one, you could argue stability a little bit. So if I don't have to stabilize as much, can I work my pecs more? Maybe. But the other big advantage of that machine is it converges. So it really takes our pecs to the same range of motion we would with a dumbbell at the bottom, and you can bring them all the way to the position where the pec is near fully contracted and there's still tension, because the line of force of the machine is always kind of out. You're still going to always have tension on the pecs. So again, it's nothing like I'm saying, start with an incline machine is definitely better than an incline dumbbell or an incline barbell. What I'm saying is there's really not that big of a difference. On almost anything, if it fits you well, if you feel it well, and if you train it consistently and progressively, you're eventually going to be big. And I always use the example, our buddy Jordan Peters does this machine. I think that's the main reason we switched to it. Yeah. Terrence saw him doing it, then I saw him doing it. And he does it with like 5 plates and some change, which if you've ever done that machine, it's pretty damn strong. And so that's one of the things when people have this notion of, oh, you can't, build mass with machines. It's like, well, show me somebody that can do 5 plates on that with good form, and they're going to have a massive chest. Yeah. It's pretty much impossible not to. So that's why we started with that. And then whatever you pick to start with, you got to stick with it consistently. Like on paper, this is a very good workout. But any workout is only as good as the workout that was before it and the workout that comes after it, and then that sequence for really months on end. So we might mix up movements that we do occasionally, but when we have our big movements, we'll stick with them for months. So I pretty much guarantee, unless something doesn't feel good, like that incline feels so damn good, yeah, I know we're going to have that for months. We did a flat barbell next. As long as it always feels good, we'll keep it. And then really you want to think is like, how do I put together a complete workout without redundancies? And so really that's why we started with something that's an incline. We started with something convergent. So really it's like full range of motion for the fibers of your pecs that attach to the top of your sternum, the ones that go to your rib cage. And if there's something to look at in there, is just figure out your arm path. I talk about this a lot on chest. Arm path is everything for chest. And if you look at the way that I'm doing it, the way that Terrence is doing it, you'll find that there's like subtle variation. Just find your comfy spot and realize like some people, again, this high elbow position can be fine. Some people a little bit more tucked. Just find your spot and make sure that upper arm is kind of coming across your midline in some way. So again, think about where your bicep is ending is a good thing. If you have the high elbow, you can think about your bicep ending kind of more in the center of your sternum. Or if you're a little bit more tucked, think about your bicep ending kind of like right here, pointing towards the middle of your collarbone. And so again, any of those positions is going to work a lot of upper chest. The idea is don't get so tucked that pretty much front delt is the only thing that moves your shoulder. But from there, find your spot again where you feel it the best and can keep the form the most consistent. And then again, to avoid redundancies, we move to really a slight decline motion after that. So again, the difference of an arm path from this to an arm path from this is obviously a big difference. And again, there's no isolation, but this biases all this stuff, and this biases a lot of those fibers that kind of run along that outer pec line and attach more to the base of your sternum. So again, nothing really miraculous or fancy there. Again, I talked through that one a little bit. Slight decline motion. We did 3 working sets on the first one, 2 working sets on the next one, and then we did 3 working sets on the fly. Yeah. And so that fly variation, again, the benefit of a fly, one is for the most part, you get a little bit more freedom of this internal external rotation. So it's really easy to get a fully stretched pec. And if you have a cable system or even a good pec deck set up right, then you can have tension all the way through to the top. So it's a great full range of motion for the pecs, and you take your elbow out of it. So again, if there's a pretty typical structure, I tend to follow, it's 2 pressing motions followed by a fly motion. And again, I've talked to that one a bit. And it's, again, looks like kind of fancy. Some people are like, why do you have the roller in there? it just allows your shoulder blades to move better. And again, watch Terrence when he's doing that, he's really pulling his shoulder blades back. So again, his chest is really full and open and stretched. And as he comes forward, you'll see his shoulder blades pull forward and really lets him get a good strong contraction. So again, the ability for your shoulder blades to move is actually very important when you're going through a lot of range of motion for chest. So that's why we picked that one there. It's just super versatile, fits really, really well, takes the elbows out of it for the most part. You can get in positions that are very kind of joint friendly. Again, we did 3 working sets there. All of our working sets, I kind of like the idea of a top set, so absolutely heaviest set, a rep range of generally anywhere from maybe 6 to 8. And then from there, dropping it down a little bit lighter weight, doing another set anywhere 8 to 12, 8 to 15, and then a third set. If we do that normally, it's even a higher rep range. Sometimes we do drop sets, strip sets, but upwards of even 20. And then just kind of for a finisher, this notion of whatever's left, push-up variations, in my opinion, are awesome. Because again, it's kind of like a right in the mid-range. What does your chest have left? Why did we do the band? Did the band again, just because push-ups tend to be a little bit easier as you come to the top. So the real easy thing is put a band around your back. Makes it a little bit heavier as you come to the top. And so again, similar thing, I like push-ups too because you can really move your shoulder blades. So at the end of the workout, I'd argue it's kind of decent for shoulder health. And again, I like to do them on the Smith sometimes, one, because it's easier on the wrist. So again, if we're doing push-ups like this, most people don't actually have that range of motion, just wrecks their wrist. So this way you can keep it stacked, one. And then two, as you saw, it makes for real easy drop sets. So again, obviously every time it goes higher, you're basically using a smaller percentage of your weight. And so again, real quick and easy way to do 2 or 3 drop sets. We just did 2 sets there, kind of just whatever we've got left in our pecs. And the way with our split is right now, we're hitting triceps 3 times a week. We hit them with probably about, I'd say 4 to 6 working sets on actual arm day. And the other 2 times that we hit them, we actually just hit them with 1 working set into a drop set. So people are like, oh, it's 3 times a week too much. Well, not really, because again, only one day we have 4 to 6 working sets, and on the days we touch on them on chest and shoulders, we literally do 1 working set. And you'll see for exercise selection there, it's almost always going to be cables, just because that fits both of us the best. If you're going to increase the frequency of a muscle, you really got to make sure it lines up well. Because again, if we did skull crushers and stuff, which again are great exercises for somebody, they're not good for us. We do those long enough or frequent enough, and our elbows just kind of disassemble. Yeah. And that's from professional observation experience, and personally, I've wrecked my elbows doing those, for over a decade. And then from there, we just finished with calves. So same things. We got calves 3 times a week right now as well too. We actually start our leg day with calves. And then we do them at the end again of chest and shoulders. So obviously today was chest, we do it at the end of shoulders as well too. Slightly different thing. Today was a little bit higher volume, so did 3 working sets there. Just supersetting a hip-loaded calf raise. So if you don't have that calf raise sled, just using the leg press is the exact same thing. And then right to a seated calf. And my gym doesn't have a seated calf, so you'll see we do them on the leg curl, which is a pretty easy little hack in case you don't have a seated calf. That's pretty much the only time I'll put seated calves in, is just for a little added volume. So that was it. That's pretty much typical where we're at now. Again, Terrence is about 15 weeks out from the Olympia, so we're going to have him in best shape he's ever been in his life. And that's pretty much probably what our chest workout's going to be for the next 15 weeks with a little bit of variation. And our goal is same as everything. Like I said, this is anything that you do. So like I said, if you're going to do, incline barbell to start, or whatever, you sub out some exercises, stick with it consistently. You really don't know if a workout is good or works aside from immediate feedback. Don't do things that are painful. But the goal here is we track and we progress all the variables of our training the best that we can, and put on some tissue. So as always, if you guys enjoy, like the workout, leave some comments, some feedback below, hit some thumbs up, hit some subscribes, and share this with somebody that needs bigger boobies.
Yeah.
That's it. Peace.